Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathsala. This is Mrs. Prema Janardhan, Vice Principal, presenting on Module 4, Approaches and Strategies of Crime Prevention. The learning objectives clearly differentiate between the different approaches to crime prevention, understand the practical strategies that can be used effectively to deter crime such as crime prevention through environmental designs, defensible space situation crime prevention, community crime prevention, prevention based on routine activities, prevention based on crime patterns, pockets of crime, collective responsibility for prevention, cost and benefits of crime prevention. Introduction. As explained in the previous module, there are three approaches to crime prevention. The environmental approach which includes situational crime prevention techniques and broader urban planning initiatives, aims to modify the physical environment to reduce the opportunities for crime to occur. The social approach focuses on the underlying social and economic causes of crime in the community, and it also faces on the limitation, the supply of motivated offenders, and includes developmental and prevention of community development models. The criminal justice approach. The criminal justice approach refers to various programs delivered by police and courts and correction that aim to prevent recidivism among those people who have already engaged in offending behavior and who have come into contact with the criminal justice system. Crime prevention strategies. CPTD, crime prevention through environmental design. Under this strategy, the ways to prevent crime is to design the total environment. It is the opposite of the reactive strategies of the police and closely related to rational choice theory. Crime reduction can be achieved through policies that convince potential criminals to desist from criminal activities, delay their actions, or avoid a particular target. Thus, crime prevention can be achieved through one of the three ways. Potential targets are carefully guarded, means to commit crime are controlled, potential offenders are carefully monitored. Crime prevention efforts aimed at people such as general and specific deterrence are less sure to work because of the high mobility of people. People are not permanent fixtures of an environment or very long, they move around a good deal throughout the day. However, things such as buildings and other physical features of the environment are relatively permanent. As a result, CPTED can produce effects on crime and perceptions of personal crime risk. It provides the following design principles. Control natural access, encouraging people to go where they will do no harm or receive no harm, like using hedges, shrubs, gates and fences to direct people to the entrance and exit of buildings. Provide natural surveillance, placing potential crime targets in places where they can be watched easily. Making front windows on houses face those across the street. Foster territorial behavior, marking territorial areas so that they are easily observed and noted. Example, do landscaping so that it is readily apparent where one apartment ends and another apartment begins. The three main design approaches apply to three main strategies: natural, organized and mechanical strategies. Under natural strategies, security results from the design and layout of space. Both human and capital costs are low. Organized strategies are activated through the use of security, personnel and police. It is labor intensive and expensive. Mechanical strategies make use of surveillance equipments and other hardwares to control access and provide surveillance, and is expensive. Natural strategies are superior economically and avoid confrontation by preventing crime from happening in the first place. Research has shown that much of the practical applications of CPTD have been in target hardening which have been largely successful. Increasing street lighting is in crime prone areas reduce crime. creating cul-de-sacs in very dangerous areas of a city reduce the occurrence of drive-by shootings, making entrances and exits into public housing area one way reduce crime overall in those areas, placing strategic barricades of streets leading to major drug neighborhood in order to limit access, reduce drug related offences. Crime prevention through defensible spaces. This strategy, as explained under the defensible space theory, proposes a residential environment designed in such a way as to allow and encourage residents to supervise and be responsible for their neighborhoods. The practical implication of the defensible space theory is improved visibility between apartment units, homes by residents, and creating spaces where residents could gather, thereby increasing the potential for resident surveillance. The overall goal is to reduce anonymity and isolation of people and places within a community. A key part of improving defensible space is to improve the control of local space. Newman divides local space into 4 different categories. Public, places like streets where no one has control or dominion. Semi-public, places like sidewalks in front of home that people treat as having some responsibility over despite their public ownership. Semi-private, areas like the backyard of a house that are controlled by a person or persons but are within view of the public. Private, places like homes in which people have complete ownership and are able to watch completely and deny access to others. Under this theory, private supervision is the key to crime prevention. Things are more likely to be stolen if they are left in public or semi-public space. The practical application of this theory resulted in housing and school projects all over USA using the defensible space concepts. Research on defensible space showed that low-rise buildings instead of high-rise buildings in government housing areas reduced overall crime. Use of low fences in neighborhoods increased territoriality and decreased incidents of burglary and theft. Small streets in residential areas increased neighborhood supervision and lowered crime. A larger number of small parks rather than small number of larger parks reduced incidents of crime by decreasing large public areas where surveillance is poor. However, impact of design changes on overall crime in areas outside of public housing units was almost non-existent. Situational crime prevention theories. There are several strategies under situational crime prevention. Increase effort needed to commit crime. This is proposed by hardening targets, making the potential target of criminal victimization more difficult to victimize. Example, unbreakable glasses on storefronts, locking gates, fenced yards. Controlling access to the targets, limiting access to an area in order to reduce criminal chance of offending. Example, parking lot barriers, secure doors to stores, deflecting offenders from targets, locating businesses and services so as to divert criminal opportunity. Example, residential behind retail is in mixed use, utilizing control crime facilitators. Increase risk of committing crime. This is done by screening entrance and exits using formal surveillance, surveillance by employees and natural surveillance. Reduce rewards of committing crime. Remove targets, identify property, reduce temptation, deny benefits. Induce guilt or shame for committing crime. Set rules, alert consciences, control disinhibitors, assist compliances. While research indicates that situational crime prevention tactics have been very successful, the results need to be taken with a grain of salt. Many of the findings deal with the relative minor crimes. Many of the crimes where tactics have been successful have been crimes against private organizations, not street crimes against people. Methods used to evaluate effectiveness of the tactics have been less than scientific, with no control groups and almost no follow-ups. Community crime prevention strategies. Community crime prevention strategies purport to make changes in community infrastructure, culture, or the physical environment to prevent crimes. These strategies involve the residents, community, NGOs, and local government agencies in tackling crime at the local level. Some of the strategies are allegating. This is a situational crime prevention strategy mainly implemented in the United Kingdom that uses lockable gates to control access to alleys behind rows of homes where crimes frequently occur. Closed circuit television surveillance. Public surveillance system include a network of cameras and components for monitoring, recording and transmitting video images. The ultimate goal of installing public surveillance camera is to reduce both property and personal crime. Focused deterrence strategies. Problem oriented policing strategies follow the core principles of deterrence theory. The evaluation found that focused deterrence strategies, also referred as pulling levers, policing can reduce crime. Improved street lighting. A crime prevention strategy that aims to improve the lighting on streets to reduce crimes through modifying and improving environmental measures. Neighborhood watch, also known as block watch, apartment watch, home watch and community watch. These programs involve citizens trying to prevent crime in their neighborhood or community. Citizens remain alert for suspicious activities and report those activities to the police. Problem oriented policing. These analytical methods are used by police to develop crime prevention and reduction strategies. Sobriety checkpoints. Sobriety checkpoints are policing operations that aims to reduce the number of alcohol related car crashes by preventing people from driving under the influence of alcohol and other substances. Driving under the influence is prevented by increasing the perceived and actual risk of detection and apprehension by the police. Crime prevention under the routine activities theory. Routine activity theory research has provided the following strategies that will help to prevent crime. These areas where a higher percentage of residents are home during the day have lower property crime rates. Corner homes, usually near traffic lights or stop signs, are the ones most likely to be burglarized. Secluded homes such as those at the end of a cul-de-sac or surrounded by wooded areas make more suitable targets. Criminals are more likely to drift towards a city center than move towards outwards to commit a crime. Communities that organize themselves, restrict traffic, change street patterns and limit neighborhood entrances and exits will reduce property crime levels. Crime prevention under the crime pattern theory. Crime pattern theory attempts to achieve crime prevention through the following strategies: awareness space, connectivity or permeability of streets greatly impacts awareness of space of offenders. Balanced connectivity. Neighborhoods should not be overly permeable, nor should be completely restricted movement. Suitability of target. Design should work to make targets as unsuitable as possible. Good natural surveillance, effective lighting systems, physical protection, well maintained landscapes. Crime prevention under the pocket of crime theory. This theory implies that for crime prevention of crime, context is virtually important. Understanding where the crime is occurring and why it is happening there are not elsewhere. While crimes is a result of numerous factors, all of which need to be dealt with, opportunities are the biggest single factor. Disorder levels will help determine general areas of crime. Opportunities will determine locations of high crime. Design matters with regards to reducing opportunities. Site design. How buildings and roads are designed. Zoning, building design. Combining crime prevention approaches. No one approach underlying theory of prevention is inherently better than the others. All of them have advantages and disadvantages. Some social development approaches can be long term and require commitment and investment continuing over a number of years. Community or locally based approaches can require considerable patience with the difficulties of engaging citizens in positive ways or maintaining the momentum of projects. They are more difficult to evaluate, so clear and rapid results from interventions may be hard to identify. Situational prevention has often been criticized for focusing too much on opportunistic crime and target hardening techniques or surveillance, for encouraging unequal access to security, and for failing to tackle the social and economic causes of crime problems. Some of the recent developments in situational prevention have focused on better use of regulations such as municipal and local bylaws and their enforcement, and this is seen as a valuable tool that encourages businesses or local residents to change and regulate their own behaviors. No specific crime prevention approach should be considered superior to the others. Any approach that is selected should form part of a strategic and balanced plan, and the advantages and disadvantages of each approach in a particular context should be considered. Thus, a project in a city neighborhood, for example, may combine a range of initiatives such as changes to traffic layout, better lighting, employing and training young people to act as guardians and local mediators, providing support to low income families, and providing better recreational facilities and opportunities in disadvantaged residential apartments. Collective approaches and role of governments. The UN guidelines for prevention of crime states that it is the responsibility of all the levels of government to create, maintain and promote a context within which relevant governmental institutions and all segments of civil society, including the corporate sector, can better play their part in preventing crime. Over the past few decades, there has been a major shift from the traditional view that crime prevention is the responsibility of the police to the view that it is a collective responsibility. Since the 1980s, it has been argued that it is more effective and cost efficient and beneficial to take a collective and proactive approach to preventing crime. The importance of collective action is recognized in both guidelines for cooperation and technical assistance in the field of urban crime prevention and the guidelines for the prevention of crime. There are a number of compelling arguments. First, since the factors that cause crime and violence to increase or decline are closely linked to many social, economic and environmental issues, governments at all levels cannot rely solely on the criminal law and justice system to ensure safety. Multisectorial partnership between ministries such as those responsible for housing, health, education and employment, recreation, social services and environment, as well as the police and justice sector, can all make a significant difference to the crime levels by establishing proactive rather than reactive strategies to prevent crime and victimization. Secondly, the value of collective approaches have become apparent from evaluations of crime prevention programs in high income countries in particular, which have shown the limitations of the police role. In almost all countries, for example, the majority of crimes are never reported to the police. It has also been demonstrated that prevention helps reduce the cost of criminal justice interventions. The criminal justice system is primarily reactive, that is acting after offences have been committed. Crime prevention takes a proactive approach. Moreover, there can be other benefits from timely prevention programs such as improving social functioning and employment prospects and rebuilding communities, all of which can help to reduce social and economic cost in a city or country. Cost and benefits of crime prevention. The criminal justice system is a very costly to maintain in all countries. So, any reductions in rates of crime and in the number of people processed through the courts and prisons are likely to save on policing, prosecution, defense and court costs and the considerable expenses of running prison and parole systems. Apart from the criminal justice costs of crime, there are many long-term social and economic costs associated with lost productivity and social and welfare services incurred by offenders and their families. For example, when breadwinners are imprisoned or children taken into care. The costs of crime also include the cost for victims in terms of their health and their ability to work or go to school or to take care of their own families. Estimates of the cost of crime for victims and society in terms of health, lost earnings and productivity suggest that these can be given higher than the criminal justice cost. Finally, all expenditure on protective security such as technological systems, private policing or fencing and barriers must be included in the cost of crime. Over the past decades, a number of studies of the costs and benefits of crime prevention programs have been conducted. They have shown, for example, that early intervention programs to provide support to children and families at risk or working with young people to encourage them to stay in school and complete their education lead to considerable reductions in long-term criminal and social and economic costs that exceed the sums invested in those programs. As a return on the money invested, prevention programs not only reduce expenditure on the criminal justice sector, but also on social services interventions. They also bring other social and economic benefits such as increased earned income or lower health cost. All of these factors help to demonstrate the benefits for government of working in a collective way. Thus, national governments that develop a national strategy on crime prevention through a multi-sectorial partnership across ministries can help to facilitate and support the development of strategies and planned responses at the sub-regional level and with local governments and civil society. Local governments are in the best position to understand their own needs and strengths as well as citizens' concerns. Working in partnership with local service sectors, citizens and stakeholders can be a difficult process, but such partnerships are likely to be more effective than imposing a strategy. The guidelines for cooperation and technical assistance in the field of urban crime prevention place particular emphasis on the importance of a local approach to crime. It is not just national or local authorities and service sectors, however, that can help to prevent crime. The role of local communities is crucial. The involvement and cooperation of local civil society demonstrates that government action alone cannot succeed in creating healthy and safe communities. Governments need to work in partnership with communities and civil society organizations. Contemporary crimes prevention is therefore a strategic process and methodology for responding to crime and safety issues. It recognizes that crime affects people in their daily lives at the local level and is a major factor affecting the quality of their lives. Conclusion. Based on practical implication, interventions, delivered activities, there are three approaches to crime prevention: the environmental approach, social approach and criminal justice approach. Different theories of crime prevention such as CPTED, defensible space, situational crime prevention, routine activities, crime pattern and broken windows provide different types of strategies to achieve crime prevention. Community crime prevention methods are focused and aimed changing the cultural and physical environment so as to reduce opportunities for crime. Most of the strategies have developed through practical applications. Every approach of crime prevention and its underlying theory has its own advantages and disadvantages. A combination of strategies suitable to the particular context is a better and effective method of crime prevention. For a traditional view of crime prevention as the responsibility of the police, it is now increasingly acknowledged as a collective responsibility with leadership provided by all levels of government. Crime prevention is a proactive approach, and timely prevention approach programs deliver benefits in the form of improved social functioning, employment prospects, and rebuilding of communities that reduce social and economic cost of a nation. Thank you for visiting EPG Pathshala.